We all think we know the difference between fire and warmth. Lust is the fire that consumes you, but love is the warmth that saves you. I had to lose everything, and almost lose myself, to realize that the man who set my blood on fire wasn't the one who was meant to carry my soul. Maya met Julian at a high-end rooftop gallery. The air didn't just move, it vibrated. Julian didn't look at her. He hunted her with his eyes. Within minutes, the conversation was a blur of double meanings and heavy silences. It was lust at first sight, a physical pull so violent it felt like gravity was broken. He was a storm, and Maya was a house made of glass. She ignored the tiny voice of her intuition that whispered about the coldness in his smile, choosing instead the heat of his touch. The first month was a whirlwind of expensive champagne and hotel rooms. With Julian, everything was more. The sex was a battlefield, the arguments were theatrical, and the reconciliation was intoxicating. Maya felt alive, but she was also exhausted. She was addicted to the dopamine of his presence, a craving that felt like love but acted like a drug. He never asked about her childhood or her fears. He only cared about how she looked in the light of the neon city. In the background of Maya's chaotic life was Liam, her architectural partner. Liam was the silence between the notes. He knew how she took her coffee, he noticed when her eyes were tired, and he challenged her mind without ever raising his voice. While Julian was a wildfire, Liam was a hearth. One late night at the office, Liam looked at her with a profound, steady sadness. He saw the bruises Julian was leaving on her soul, even if she couldn't see them yet. The twist came when Maya's father fell ill. She called Julian, sobbing, needing a shoulder to lean on. Julian's response was a cold text, "Sorry, babe. I'm at a launch party. Call you tomorrow?" In that moment, the fire flickered. Lust requires the best version of you, but it disappears when you are broken. Maya sat alone in the hospital hallway, the expensive dress Julian bought her feeling like a shroud. The fantasy was starting to rot. Without being asked, Liam appeared at the hospital. He brought a blanket, a charger, and a book he knew she loved. He didn't try to fix her grief. He simply sat in it with her. There was no physical electricity, only a deep, grounding resonance. For the first time, Maya understood that love isn't a race. It's a place to rest. Liam's hand on hers didn't make her blood boil. It made her breathing steady. The contrast was terrifyingly clear. Maya tried to go back to Julian one last time, desperate to reclaim the spark. They made love in his penthouse, a desperate, frantic act that felt more like a goodbye than a union. As they lay together afterward, the silence was deafening. Julian was already looking at his phone. She realized that making love with him was just two bodies colliding, leaving her lonelier than before. There was no soul in the room, only the cooling embers of a fire that had burned itself out. Maya finally confronted Julian about his emotional absence. He laughed, a jagged sound that cut through the air. "Maya, we were never that kind of couple. Don't ruin a good thing with feelings." The mask fell off completely. He didn't love her. He loved the reflection of himself in her eyes. She left that night with nothing but her dignity, walking out into the cold rain, realizing she had been starving for a meal while she was surrounded by candy. Months of healing passed. Maya spent time alone, relearning her own intuition. She worked closely with Liam, and the transition happened so naturally she almost missed it. One evening, while discussing a blueprint, Liam reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was soft, but the impact was seismic. It wasn't a spark. It was a light turning on in a dark room. She realized she was finally seen, not just watched. Julian returned, as lustful ghosts often do. He appeared at her door, dripping with charm and apologies, promising the world. Maya looked at him and felt nothing. The fire was out, and the smoke had cleared. She saw the hollow man beneath the expensive suit. "You were a lesson, Julian," she said firmly. "Not a life." Closing the door on him felt like the first real breath she had taken in years. The story ends on a quiet beach. Maya and Liam are walking as the sun sets, There are no fireworks, just a deep, unshakable peace. Liam turns to her and says, "I've loved you since the first sketch we ever did." Maya realizes that love isn't about losing yourself in someone else. It's about finding yourself beside them. As they watch the tide come in, she knows the difference now. Lust is a flash. Love is the horizon. If you finally understood the difference between the fire and the hearth today, hit that like button. Share your story in the comments. Have you ever mistaken lust for love? Subscribe to IntuiLove Stories and let your heart follow its intuition. See you in the next heartbeat.